Meeting the challenges of the moment requires compassion, fierce commitment, and bold thinking. These values unite Hilton Humanitarian Prize laureates across every year and every decade. These values are also embodied by the International Rescue Committee, the second organization to receive the prize back in 1997. And for 92 years, the International Rescue Committee has responded to the needs of people uprooted by conflict and war and disaster. And I've learned that wherever you are in the world, the IRC is synonymous with support for the most vulnerable. Under the leadership of President and CEO David Miliband, the organization is spearheading new partnerships and strategies to strengthen its humanitarian response. From growing up as the son of refugees to his service as Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, David exemplifies the humanitarian values that we are here tonight to celebrate. So it is my honor to welcome him to the stage.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Linda, Peter, laureates, friends. I want to thank you for the invitation to speak tonight, but more important, I want to thank all of you for your leadership at this really important time. I think we know that we gather at a time when the world is racked by disorder. 120 million people displaced, 300 million people in humanitarian need, 1 in 26 people in the planet dependent on non-governmental organizations to help them survive. And behind every statistic, a human story, a mother carrying her child through floodwaters, a teenager translating for his family at a border, an aid worker rebuilding a clinic bombed the day before. But let's be honest, it's not just the enormous needs that bring us together and create a sense that this moment is different. There's something else. The very basics of what we do, the very idea of international aid, is under pretty sustained assault. The aims that gather us together are being mocked. The purpose is being traduced, the impact denied through claims that it's all waste. And funds being withdrawn are the consequence of that. A 25% cut coming over these 2 years. Just for my own organization, 2 million clients have already lost services in the last 6 months, and 5,000 colleagues have lost their jobs. So it's not just the scale of need that makes the commitment of the Hilton Foundation, its commitment to humanitarian endeavor, so important. It's not just the fact that the world has many needs that makes Linda's leadership, Peter's leadership so important. It's also, and this comes from Conrad Hilton, I think, a determination to swim against the tide, to reject the easy answers. Because for me, the Hilton Prize stands above all for courage in the face of adversity. It stands for the courage to innovate, like the Partners in Health community-based model that was recognized with its award. It stands for the courage to advocate, like Amazon Frontline's conservation efforts. And yes, it stands for the courage to act, for which the IRC had the great honor of being honored as a recipient of the prize in 1997. And so today, those 3 words, innovation, advocacy, action, sum up what I think is great about the Minds Advisory Group and why I'm so pleased that they've won this year's award. It's not just that they're from Manchester in the United Kingdom that makes me particularly proud, although I have to say that means something. But I want to dwell for a minute on what makes the recipients of this prize, what unites the recipients of this prize. I think it's that every organization that's been honored, we don't wait for permission to save lives. We just go at it. When we hear talk of hard-to-reach people, we say no. The problem is hard-to-reach services. When we're told that the job must be hard, that our job must be hard, we say it's because it's hard that we do it. And as we think, and I really was struck by what Linda said, what would Conrad be thinking and doing today? As we think about that, I think we need more of that spirit today. At the IRC, we don't just talk about surviving the next 3 years. We're determined to achieve the greatest impact at scale over the next 3 years. And that starts with 3 lessons that I've learned in my 10 years in the humanitarian sector, and which I want to offer to you tonight. First, I'm pleased we've heard a lot about hope tonight. I used to make speeches about how it was hope that led to action. And what I realize now, I made those speeches as a politician, many of them. But what I realize now is I got it wrong. It's not hope that leads to action, it's action that leads to hope. And it's action that actually brings us together tonight. Action, and I hope it's okay to use an example, action like the IRC's delivery of 20 million vaccine doses in 4 war-torn East African countries for $2 a shot. That is the kind of action that generates hope and that we need more of in the world today. Second, I want to say a word about a word that's dangerous if you're in government. It's a 4-letter word. Don't worry. I want to talk about risk. That's a dangerous word in government. But our job outside government is not to manage risk, it's to embrace risk. In government, I would never have boasted that 40% of our projects failed. But in the IRC's Impact Lab, which is part of our Airbell Research and Innovation Center, we boast that 40% of the ideas that we trial in that Impact Lab, 40% of those ideas failing, shows that we're willing to take risks to find the best possible ways of doing things for people. The real risk in our sector over the next few years is not innovation, it's inertia. And we need to fight that inertia because our teams take risks every day, and we need more donors like the Hilton Foundation ready to back the risk takers. The risk-averse parts of the humanitarian sector are not the IRC workers that I met in Sudan 2 weeks ago. Those who are averse to risk are those who are the donors, and we need to explain that risk is essential if we're to reach people in need. Third and finally, I want to finish by saying a word about our humanitarian values, because sometimes these are seen as a soft luxury. They're not. They're a hard necessity. And they're under siege. And they're under siege from a terrible tendency. It's a tendency that I call the tribalization of pain. It says that if you're in my tribe, I care about your suffering. But if you're not in my tribe, it's your problem, not mine. We have to say no to that. No, no, and no again. That is what we stand against. Our tribe, let's send the message from here tonight. Our tribe, for all of our differences, our tribe is the human tribe. And if you're in pain, whatever your race or religion or nationality or ethnicity, then your pain is my problem. Your suffering is my suffering. That is the essence of the humanitarian credo. Let's leave it to others to say charity begins at home. Sure it does. But we're saying charity doesn't end at home. That's the purpose of our work and our solidarity. Of course, we've got a massive battle ahead, but it's not half as challenging as the battle facing our clients in Sudan or Gaza or Ukraine today. It was President Truman, a much underestimated president, in my view, was President Truman who said 80 years ago at the foundation of the UN, meeting in San Francisco, he said, "We know what disaster is sown when might makes right." Our commitment, he said, is that right makes might. Now that is the spirit that we need to take us forward. 80 years on, our task is noble and it's urgent. So let's roll up our sleeves, raise our voices, match the courage of those we serve. Because remember, it's action that creates hope. Thanks very much indeed.